All right, here is our
7 minutes in heaven. Normally that's a sexual reference, but since we have kids who are now watching the show who are under 18, we got to let you know 7 minutes in heaven means a really good time. What are the scenes that really made you feel really good, that really jumped off the scene? Dave, take us away.
All right. So, I will say my I got it's hard. This is hard to pick the number one.
That's what she said.
I think my number three scene, my third favorite of the film, would be the Candyland shootout. The way Schultz takes Calvin Candy out, Steven's ridiculous screaming for him as soon as he gets shot. And then I really like the irony that James Remar plays the first character that Schultz kills when he picks Django up in the beginning, and he doubles back and plays the character that ends up killing Dr. Schultz. I thought that was neat. Schultz's last line, "I'm sorry, I couldn't resist." I thought that was a perfect summation of his character. It was as if like he's like the closest to a character could achieve sainthood as possible, and it's like he never had. It was never apparent that he was choosing to do the right thing. It always seemed like it was just inherent within him, and he never really thought twice about it. It was just his instinct to be a decent human being. And then, of course, when the modern music begins playing as Django starts shooting the people coming through the door, and then shortly after that, of course, you get the horse dance as after the house explodes.
The prance dance.
Yeah, the courting.
Hashtag prance dance. For me, it was one of the scenes. Not even one of the scenes when we one of the first time we meet at Kerry Washington played the character Hilda. If you notice. See, you got to pick up on certain things in films, and that's why people. I just ran to the bathroom real quick. You will start the whole movie over. I mean, seriously, because if you miss. I mean, I used to think when I told myself when I made films, it should be just that good that you can't even. You got to eat the popcorn like when you see that meme of Michael Jackson, the gif of Michael Jackson eating the popcorn. He can't take his. Like I could be eating poison, but my point is that she says when we first meet in the film, they call me Hilda. That hit for me on so many levels because number one, that's not her real name. Well, no. She said they call me, meaning she didn't even remember her own real name for wherever she was stolen from. But because of the fact that she spoke German, where she was at in Louisiana, they were so dumb that it's just like saying, "Oh, a black person's a Jimmy." Like any person that speaks German is Hilda to them. So she's like, they call me Hilda, and I'm like, that's not her name. It made me. It was a connection I brought up. Like Toby.
Don't speak French around him. He doesn't understand. It'll embarrass him.
Right. And to my point, he said that, but that's not. It's like the Toby thing. Hey, what's your name? Kunta. Your name is Toby. Like, so that's not my name. That was one of my scenes. Go ahead.
My number two scene is Dr. Schultz's introduction. Pretty much the opening of the movie after the titles. That moment where Django whips the blanket off and he's walking in slow motion, and I don't want to say proudly, but he's just owning that this is where he's at in life. This is what's been done to him, and he still holds his head up high. And then he goes to step on the horse to squish the guy even further, which is awesome. And Christoph Waltz, when he says, "Did you just get carried away with your gesture? Or are you aiming that weapon at me with violent intent?" He shoots the dude's horse in the head. This is right off the bat in the movie. Like they got out
of the way early, didn't they?
Yeah, and then if you notice, like in the beginning, at the end credits, that's like one of the first things that comes up. It's like, hey, no horses were harmed in the movie.
He did it to cause him like he shot the animal in the head so he could literally fall on him.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
What I love most about that scene is that it's a perfect introduction for Dr. Schultz because. It's so telling about his character that the remaining guys that are out there, he gives them a choice, and it's an obvious choice. Like, you can either kill that dude over there and
put him in a hole.
Yeah, and then go to a more enlightened part of the country, or you can carry him 37 miles to the nearest town back to safety and continue on as you were. The choice is obvious, but it's in his gesture that means something. Like, he is giving them back their free will. This is probably the first time they've been given the option for anything.
But then he doubles back and says, for my astronomy fans out there, You see, he tells him which way to. Just in
Oh,
case you
yeah,
didn't know, he
yeah.
doubles back. So yeah, no, I'm with you. That's part of the introduction. One of the ones that my number, I guess, I didn't. It's we used three, so they're not in any particular order. But one of the ones that I definitely had to bring up, and I mentioned this earlier. I did a little foreshadowing, which was the best use of a whip ever in my I've seen in my life. You have to understand this. I've seen videos. I've never physically seen someone, my ancestors, get beat, but I can feel it every morning. I wake up. You wouldn't understand it. It's innately in us when your people have been beaten for 400 years. But when I've never seen a more manly, powdery blue suit in my life. When he takes that whip and he goes over there. And he just doesn't beat him. And most people won't realize this. You may have read this in your research. There's a reverse shot to where they show Jamie Foxx in the character, but in a mirror. His head and his hands are gone.
Yeah.
So it speaks to a mystical figure or something like that. Right before there's no reason for his head. You see everything else. So my point is this. And he looks at him and says, "I like the way you die, boy."
Yeah.
Like Jesus Christ. I mean, how can you not root for this mother? You could have ended the film right there. Like, I paid $15 for this shit. Cool. 40 minutes. I'm out. I'm good. Yep.
That's actually my number one.
Wow. Why did you stop me?
Because I figure I'll let you lay the groundwork because I've got plenty of notes that I just loved about that scene. I'm just gonna plow through them.
Okay.
Starting off with when he says, "You're gonna let me pick out my own clothes," and he does this little smirk almost at the audience, and then the next that cut to the vibrant suit just looking so. Oh man, like it was just like a nod and a wink, and then it goes right into the scene. They right up to John Johnson's plantation, Mr. Bennett or Big Daddy, totally hostile until Schultz mentions how much money he has. Green overcomes everything. The issue is clearly black and white until Green gets involved. So then Django is a freeman, so he isn't to be treated like, you know the word he says there. Mm-hmm. Then
you want me to treat them like white folks?
No. Like, he coming back with that. Quick, let me be abundantly clear.
What's that Jimmy name in town? They play with the little metal. Yeah.
So then you get that like comical moment, but then it goes straight into the flashback that is so like, it's heartbreaking, really. Watching Django plead for his wife to be spared, like begging, throwing. He doesn't care. His ego is so far removed that, especially like Django is like the superhero of the film, and in that flashback, you see him. Just it definitely sets it up nice where you're waiting for the revenge to take place and for him to be reunited. Leads right into him taking revenge by shooting the man who did it, and of course, like you said, I like the way you die, to fucking whipping the other dude who is the worst gun handler in the history of gun handlers. Then my favorite part about that is how Schultz rides up. He is ready. He's like the original Everett K. Ross.
Oh yeah.
He comes riding up and leaps off that horse so quick, and then he's like,
Who are they?
Yeah, who are they? He doesn't even know what exactly is going on. He just knows that he's there to have Django's back, and then of course, you know, he has his rifle aimed, and he's like, "Are you positive? I don't know. You don't know if that's him? I don't know what positive means. I'm sure that's him." Pop, shoots him. Like, it takes his like it.
And what did he say after that? I'm positive he's dead.
Yeah. And then when everybody comes up, he's like, "Let's calm down. We mean no one else any harm." Dr. Schultz is so smooth, almost like he's taking pleasure in conversing his way at a gunpoint. Like, that's when he seems the most alive, is when he's smooth talking his way out of a situation where people are pointing their guns at him. And then that same scene, it goes into the fucking idiots, the racist gang fighting over their masks, and Don Johnson with the "hold on, I'm with my holes," and then where Schultz is saying Big Daddy's getting away, like the way Django shot Big Daddy and the way they shot that moment was really cool to me. How you just see the horse running in slow motion, you hear the gunshot, and it's just the horse's feet, and then you see Big Daddy fall on the ground, and it comes up to show the blood splatter on a horse. I thought that was really nicely done. Yeah, all in all, that was probably the most enjoyable scene in the movie
That
for me.
that was almost my number one, and it probably was my number one, but I had a 1A and 1B, so I'm gonna go with the other one. But before I do, I definitely have to really recap a lot of things you said on that. Like I say, that was to me again. That was the I have it written down. What does it say? Like the best racist scene ever. Like to me, because again, it just kind of shows you like this is the side that we as people would never get to see yet. Like angry mobs aren't angry all the time. They have to have normal conversation. And I wouldn't normally give a what a mob was talking about. That was it brought me in on the other side. Like wow, they really like who the made these? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like that. Like it, again, we love quoting Paul Mooney. Who's that that sold the flag? Betsy Rock. That was asleep at 6. Ooh, she had some big black maybe pajama. Oh, I'm so tired. I see stars. Well, put them in the flag and fry me some chicken. Oh Lord. So yeah, all right. So with that being said, to me, I just had to do it, bro. I love Paul. My number one scene, or mentioned scene, was the library scene, and the reason why the library scene, I'll go into depth on this, is when Steven called Calvin Candy down to the library. He's like, he shows how smart he is. Like, oh, is something wrong with the white kid? Well, Steven, that's it. Clearly, they like, let me meet me in the library. So my point is this. The dynamic they never really talk about that is that of course, like he said that Ben helped the skull that he put on the desk later was the slave that took care of his granddaddy, him, and then eventually he died. Well, I'm assuming that according to how they're saying that Ben died at a very young at Calvin's young age. So Calvin's pretty much only probably known Stephen his entire maybe from 6 till now life, and so he understands that that's his Ben. He probably misses Ben so much that he seriously like that I hate to say it, that's his pet. And he loves Steven so much that if any of the motherfuckers that are human that are white with Steven, he's going to them up.
Yeah.
That's his one sense of I'm not that bad of a guy. My best slave friend's black. Like it's because he's not, and like I say to me, but it shows the dynamic of Steven felt comfortable with that. Like I told you, it's the ultimate turn. You're not a racist. You were the product of racism, and you stopped fighting back. Not only did you give up, you got on their side, and you became worse than them. Like they had, like without Steven, that whole, even if you were traumatized by racism, some part of you be like, you know what, I know what these niggas over here doing, but it. We deserve a win every 100 years at least. Damn.
You couldn't even write it off as like self-preservation either, because he went out of his way to go above and beyond. Did you see him?
He was in there. He fixed some cognac. So I don't know what free. That had to be free back then.
Yeah.
Jesus. So he's talking. But what they said was in the film, he showed him respect in public, but he was his daddy in private. Mm-hmm. Like what? Like Calvin didn't talk to him racist or uppity or biggity one time when they were in private. Not one time.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. So that's why that scene was that library. It shows the dynamic between the slave that loved it. They call it the and I'm this up right now. But what's the effect when the captive becomes in love with the captor? It's some type of effect. Like it starts with
Stockholm syndrome.
Stockholm syndrome. That's what it was. The original. It became a name when niggas weren't doing it no more. They held they were held hostage. We got a name for it. So when we was held hostage for 405 years, no name for it. We'll talk about that later. Go ahead. That's my scene.
All right, what were your favorite scenes in the movie? Let us know in the comments.
Why don't you subscribe? It'll last longer.